Sony's 16-25 is an excellent wide-angle zoom lens. I like it for two reasons. One, it's compact, and two, it does double duty because it's an excellent choice for topside landscape photography as well as underwater. So let's go ahead and see how we put this together with the zoom solution in a DL housing. First thing, we'll turn our attention to the lens. We're going to use the gear sleeve and clamp system in order to zoom this lens while it's in the housing. So when we open the box, we're going to take our gear sleeve, which we'll set to the side. And in the bag, we have a set of foam and a clamp. And because of this lens's diameter, we will not need to use the foam included. So we will zip that back up and put it with our spare parts and close up our box. Here we have the clamp, and you'll notice that the clamp has two tabs on it, and in those tabs are channels. Those channels are going to correspond and line up with the two ribs that are on the inside diameter of the gear sleeve. But before we get to putting those two pieces together, let's put the clamp on the lens. You'll notice on the lens that there are three different rings. The first at the bottom closest to what will be the camera body is going to be your aperture ring. Make sure that's set to A for automatic. The next is going to be the zoom ring, and that's where we're going to put the clamp. And then the last will be the focus ring, which make sure we don't put the clamp there. So what I like to do is make sure that the tabs are actually facing the camera body, and I'm going to line up one of the two tabs with the white dot on the lens itself, and that'll help us align it later during installation. And to do that, all I have to do is gently walk the clamp up the lens, like so. And I make sure that the clamp is right in the middle of that zoom ring. And again, I'm going to make sure that I have that tab lined up with the white dot on the lens itself. Set that aside and turn my attention to the housing. Inside the port mount, we have the retainer, and we can use the tool to remove that retainer. Simply unthreads, set that aside for the time being. Take the gear sleeve, drop it on the inside of the port mount, and you'll notice that its teeth around the circumference of it will line up with the teeth on the inside, and when you drive the zoom control, it moves the gear sleeve. So to keep it in place, we'll replace the retainer by dropping it down into place using the tool, and we're going to simply tighten that down. No need to over tighten. This is just to keep that gear sleeve in place and from falling out forward. Now, what we can do is remove the body cap from the camera. Using the zoom knob, we can take the gear sleeve and orient it so that one of the two ribs is in line with the white dot on the camera body. Turn our attention to the lens itself. Of course, remove the back cap and the front cap. And because we align one of those tabs with the white dot on the lens and align the ribs with the white dot on the camera body, it makes it quite simple to make sure that the ribs go into the channels of the clamp on both sides, drop down into place, and then you'll simply feel the lens bayonet onto the camera body. And once you do, double check to make sure that your zoom control is actually going to zoom your lens. And in this case, we are perfect. Now the system's ready for the port assembly. In this particular case, consists of the large dome port and the 50mm extension. And first thing I'm going to do with these two components is I'm going to make sure that the thumb screws on both of them are unscrewed so that the screw is not protruding to the inside diameter of the part. Next, I'm going to take some of the included Ikelite lubricant between my finger and thumb, and I'm going to apply a little bit of that lubricant to the O-ring of the port mount on the housing, simply running it around the O-ring, taking the time to visually inspect the O-ring for any debris, and oftentimes you will feel anything that could affect the seal before you'll see it. So I do that to both O-rings on the extension and the port mount. And again, it doesn't take much lubricant here, just enough to overcome the friction. And then I'll also look at the sealing surface of the extension, running my finger across it to make sure it's defect-free, clean, free of debris. Same thing with the port itself. And it is clean. Now, the order of operation that you do this in is not critical. I like to put the extension on the dome port and then put that assembly onto the housing, so that's what we're going to do here. You'll notice that when you look at the extension, you have 3 pockets. You also have those same 3 pockets on the port mount itself. Those 3 pockets correspond to the mating pieces thumb screw. So we will look here at the dome port, And you'll notice that one of the two shades corresponds with one of the thumb screws. Make sure that that is going to be what we call the top, so that it's providing shade properly. And we will take our extension, and the pockets line up with the thumb screws on the extension. Thumb screws are going to line up with those pockets. Firmly press the two pieces together. Once they're pressed together, make sure that you tighten all three of the thumb screws of the port. This is a retaining system. The seal occurred when these two pieces went together. So when you tighten these thumb screws down, this is just to keep them from coming apart. This is not affecting the seal or improving it, so no need to use tools or over tighten here. And because we're going to make note of what thumb screw corresponds to the shade, and that's going to be the top, our thumb screws will now line up with the pocket of the port mount, and we'll repeat that process here. Press down firmly until it's contacting all the way around the circumference, and now you can tighten down all three of those thumb screws. Again, no need to over tighten. And now we have a fully assembled and sealed system. That's all it takes to accommodate and zoom the 16-25 lens. If you have any questions about this process, drop us a comment down below, or feel free to shoot us an email to ikelite@ikelite.com.